So, in today's lecture, I will discuss two topics. One is ischemic heart diseases, and second will be the nitrates. So, first start from the this topic, ischemic heart diseases. So, in this lecture, I will discuss just the pathophysiology of the ischemic heart diseases, not the treatment, just pathophysiology. Some important points to know. Uh, First, going for the definition, ischemia means decreased blood supply, means whenever there is some occlusion in the blood vessel. So when blood supply is reduced, so we use a word ischemia. At the same time, if oxygen is reduced, lack of oxygen, then we use a word hypoxia. Although these two terms are used interchangeably, so there are a lot of similarities between these two. But still, we can say there can be a independent hypoxia without ischemia. Okay, so there can be hypoxia, but there cannot be ischemia. Like if you go to a high altitude, then blood supply is normal, but oxygen is reduced. Or if the person suffers from carbon monoxide poisoning, when the hemoglobin is bound with the monoxide, then blood supply is normal, but oxygen is reduced. But nevertheless, these two terms are used. In clinical, they are used interchangeably. So, ischemic heart diseases, that means ischemia to heart, okay, is also called as coronary artery disease because ischemia is happening because of the problem in the coronary arteries. Coronary arteries. These coronary arteries are responsible for supplying blood to the heart. So, these coronary arteries. So, what can be different types of the diseases because of the myocardial ischemia? What are those disorders? Like angina pectoris, myocardial infarction, sudden cardiac death. These are two actually, angina and myocardial infarction. Because of this myocardial infarction, there can be the sudden cardiac death, but sometimes it is classified separately. Sudden cardiac death, myocardial infarction, and angina. These are three types of myocardial ischemic heart diseases. And one of the major factor in all these is the atherosclerosis. Atherosclerosis means when the fat, the cholesterol is deposited in the coronary arteries or in the blood vessels, you can say. So blood supply is reduced. And if ischemia happens to brain, then we use a word transient ischemic attack or stroke. So ischemia to the heart, angina, myocardial infarction, ischemia to brain, ischemia to brain is called as transient ischemic attack and stroke. So what are the risk factors for IHD, ischemic heart diseases? One of the important factor is the age. As the age increases, the risk increases. Family history is important. So that means if in a family uh, there was a father who suffered from ischemic heart diseases, okay, in the age of 55s, or mother in the age of 65s, before less than it will be less than actually. In a family, if the men suffered from ischemic heart diseases in a year less than 55, woman in the age of mother means in the less than 65, then there are chances that there will be high chances that it will go to the child. Okay, the age in which. So family history is very important. This is less, not more. I will correct it. This is less than 655. Blood pressure is an important independent factor. Higher the blood pressure, more the chances of ischemic heart diseases. Obviously, you know cholesterol levels, and there are two kind of cholesterols. One is bad cholesterol, that is LDL, and there's good cholesterol, that is HDL. So bad is high, good is low. Low HDL and high LDL. Smoking is important factor, diabetes. So these are common factors. All these can lead to ischemic heart disease. There, there's an important role of stress also. Stress, anxiety, they also have some important role. Now, discussing points about the angina pectoris. What is angina? Number one, it is transient ischemia. Transient mean which remains for a short period of time, just short period of time. But when you talk about myocardial infarction, this ischemia is persistent. So this is one of the major difference. Transient in angina, persistent in myocardial infarction. So what are the symptoms? Symptoms will be there is a sensation of pain, pressure, or squeezing. So some person can say there's a lot of pressure on my chest, or something is squeezed, or there is a lot of pain. So what these kind of symptoms the person can say. Plus, this pain will not just remain to the chest region. It will radiate. It will move. It will move to the, obviously this is located to the left side because heart is on the left side. It will radiate to the shoulder. That means upwards or downwards. Shoulder, neck, arm, neck, or jaw. So that means it can move in the upward direction, or it can go into the downward direction also, arms. So it will not pertain to one region, but it will separate actually. Okay, there will be anxiety also. You can say anxiety, sweating, these kind of things. But the point, how you can say it is angina, the pain will subside after some time. It is resolved spontaneously. It subside after some time of its own. Or you give nitrates. You give nitrates. They also relieve the pain. So either of its own or by giving nitrates. If pain is removed, pain is relieved, you can say that it was basically a angina. But if it does not go away, if pain remains, then we will say it is MI, myocardial infarction. So another important difference, whether it persists or it goes away. Another point, there is no significant heart injury in the angina. There was just a transient pain, no injury, because it was for a short period of time. Ischemia was for a short period of time. But in MI, there is a injury to the heart. What is the reason of angina? Actually, it is a imbalance between two things. Number one, how much heart how much heart needs oxygen, the demand and supply. More demand, less supply. More demand of oxygen, less supply of oxygen. So this imbalance causes the angina. And as I told, coronary arteries are important in the heart. They are the one which supply the blood to the heart. So these arteries cannot supply blood to the heart as per the requirement. As per the requirement of the heart, these arteries cannot supply the blood. So now you can see these are the coronary arteries actually. If this is a heart, okay, so this is the artery which is very important, which is going downward. It is present on the left side of the ventricles. This is called as left anterior descending artery. Left because it is supplying to the left portion of the heart. Anterior because it is present in the front side of the heart. In the front side. Anterior means front side. Descending because it is going downward artery. This is one of the major artery. And left ventricle is the bigger one, you must know. It is much bigger, left ventricles. And then there is one more artery, little less important. Obviously, everything is important, but comparatively, right coronary artery, which supplies to the right side of the heart, right ventricles. And then there is another artery which is called as circumflex artery, which supplies to these wall sides, circumflex, circumflex artery. So these are three major arteries actually. There are some other divisions also, but they are three main: circumflex artery, left anterior descending coronary artery, and the right coronary artery. And this is aorta. This is aorta. It arises from the left ventricles, and, and it is the biggest artery in the in the body. The biggest artery in the body is the aorta. So it has the maximum pressure also. Maximum pressure is in the aorta because it directly receives the blood from the heart, from the left ventricle. Maximum pressure, most, well, you can say the bigger artery is the bigger in term. Okay. So now, let's say this is the coronary artery, and there is some blockade. Let's say this is the blockade that has happened. This is the blockade. Atherosclerosis has taken place. So because of this blockade, the, this area will not get oxygen or blood, and it will lead to infarct. And what is infarct? Infarct, or what is necrosis? It is the death of the tissue. If tissue is dead, we say it is necrosis, or we say it is infarction, death. So this is whenever there is a supply that, so there is one portion of the heart which gets ischemia, not the whole heart. Depending upon in which where the blockade was, the area will be like that one. If the blockade will take place at this point, let's say at this point, then a bigger area will be involved. So some key differences: uh, angina, there is a temporary blockade of the blood flow. In the myocardial infarction, there is a permanent blockade because blood flow was interrupted temporary. Blood flow was not going for a short period of time. So pain is also for transient and irreversible. But here pain is persistent. There is no myocardial injury, there is extensive myocardial injury. So the same thing that I told. So if the pain does not go away, it means there is a myocardial infarction. Chances are there that it is a myocardial infarction. Now we can say the angina itself can be of three types. Now we say it is of two type because third type is now it is called as acute coronary syndrome or unstable angina. We will study this thing separately. Now it is classified separately in the form of acute coronary syndrome. But I have written it in terms of older classification. So now what is stable? Stable mean the person remains in the stable position until some some precipitating factor, something extra is done, like he does some exercise, okay, some extra effort he's putting, he is exposed to cold weather, and this can happen double. He is going to the exercise in the cold winters, then it is a more problematic condition. Sexual activity or some emotional stress. So these kind of things can, they increase the demand of the heart, oxygen demand, that they increases the heart rate, all these activity. So the demand is increased. So there is an increase in the demand. But supply cannot be increased to that extent. Why it cannot be extend increased? Because there is already a deposition of atherosclerotic. There is already a plaque, and there is a lumen is narrow. Then it has been narrow. So you cannot increase the blood supply to beyond the extent. So what is the remedy? Remedy is, because it was due to the exercise, if he will take the rest, he will get the relief. So anything. It was because of the cold, he will take the rest, he will improve. So obviously the doing the rest will improve the symptoms, or taking the nitrates will improve the. And in this condition, the frequency and severity. Frequency mean how many attacks take place. Severity, for how long it take place. Okay, let's say in a week it takes place once in a week. Okay, so it will be approximately once a week. Severity, if it was there for 1 minute, let's say, so obviously it will be for 1 minute all the times, approximately. So for how long and how frequent? They are almost fairly constant, not changing much. So this is stable angina. There is another angina which is called as variant angina. It is also called as Prinzmetal angina. Variant angina, also called as Prinzmetal, Prinz metal, Metel, Prinzmetal angina. So now this is different from this one. This variant angina, pain happens during the rest period, so which is very different from this one. It happened when the person was doing some excessive activity, but it happened during the rest period. Why it happened? Because there was increase in the demand, and when he take the rest, the symptoms are improved. But it is happening during the rest only. So that means there is no increase in the demand at that period. Demand is already not there because he is at rest. So what is the problem? Automatically, for certain period of time, there is a abrupt decrease in the supply. For a short period of time, somehow blood supply is reduced for short period of time, because that is why it is angina. Short period of time and why it can happen? It can happen because of vasospasm, मतलब constriction of the arteries. For a short transient constriction, for a short period of time, blood vessels constrict, vasospasm. Now, these two are same in terms of this thing. Frequency and severity remains almost constant here also. So, okay, so you have to understand these two, and because of these differences, the drugs which are used in this stable angina will be different from the drugs which are given in variant angina. An important difference is basically the beta blockers. So you have to remember in which disease, in which angina, you will give beta blocker, in stable or in variant angina. We will discuss this thing later, but important difference is related to beta and some other drug. Which drug is preferred in variant angina, which drug is preferred in this one, because the reasons are different. Third one, which is now classified separately actually, uh, unstable angina, also called as acute coronary syndrome. It happens during the rest. So one symptom is similar to this one. It happens during the rest. Again, decrease in the blood supply. But it is happening because there is a plaque. There is a plaque in all these three. Okay, there is a plaque. But in this plaque, the demand was increased. It cannot increase the blood supply. And on this plaque, there was a vasospasm. But here, the plaque is rupturing actually. It has ruptured. Some pieces have been ruptured. Okay, some pieces. And plus, there is a vasospasm. So both the things are happening. So why it is called as unstable? Because here the frequency and severity increases progressively. That means a month ago there was one attack in a week. Now it may be possible after 1 month there are two attacks per week, or maybe possible from the next 15 days it can be three attacks in a week. Earlier it was of 1 minute, now it is 1.5 minute, now it is for 2 minutes, it is 3 minutes attack. So this is how you can say it is a unstable angina. And ultimately it can progress into the myocardial infarction, MI, because severity is increasing. 1 minute, 2 minute, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. This is how it is increasing. How to diagnose angina? Number one, ECG. What is ECG? Electrocardiogram. ECG. Electrocardiograph, which is an instrument. Actually, here we are using the 12 leads. Not need to remember this thing, but if you can understand, not a bad idea. There are 12 leads total in ECG. When you carry out ECG, you put 12 leads. Leads mean 12 wires actually you are using. 12 wires. Okay. So some wires we use word lead. So some are put on the chest. So they are called as chest lead. Some are put on the limbs. They are called as limb leads. So there is one lead, two lead, three lead, AVR, AVL. There are many leads. Now what happens is that a person says that I suffered from, I get this kind of the pain. Sometimes I get this pain. Okay. So when he goes to the laboratory for the ECG, ECG may come normal. Why it can come normal? Because ECG will be abnormal when there is a pain. But now because angina remains for a short period of time. So it happened in the earlier in a day. Now he's going, let's say in the evening to the doctor. Then now by the evening ECG will come normal. So what to do? So in that condition, you can do the exercise stress test, which is also called as TMT, or in the full form it is called as treadmill test, exercise test. So what you are doing is that in this test you are asking the patient or a person to run over a treadmill, and you will record the ECG. Because when he will run on the ECG, he will run on the treadmill, then there will be stress on the heart. The heart rate will increase, and then record ECG at that time. So If the ECG comes normal in this condition, it may become abnormal in this condition. So this is the treadmill test, stress testing. But it has to be done carefully because sometime attack can happen during this time also. So it has to be done carefully. So this is some points related to the ECG. Now, I will just tell about different waves. First is the P wave. This is the P wave. This is because of the atrial depolarization. So first of thing, this ECG, what is ECG? ECG is basically the electrical changes in the heart. Electrical changes. So we are noting those electrical changes with our electrodes. So this P wave is basically the atrial depolarization. Excitation. Depolarization leads to excitation. So atria excites and contracts during this period. So it is contracting and it is relaxing. Then comes the next wave. It's called as QRS. This complex. This is called as QRS complex. It is because of atrial depolarization. So it is happening in a sequence actually. First atria depolarized, atria contracted, now ventricles will contract. Ventricular depolarization. Now afterwards there is a P wave. P wave. Now it is time for the ventricles to relax. Ventriculars relaxation mean ventricular repolarization. This T wave. So three P, Q, R, S, and T. Now there is no wave for atrial repolarization. For the ventricles, there are two waves: ventricular depolarization, ventricular repolarization. But for the atria, only depolarization, no repolarization. The reason is that at here somewhere atrial repolarization take place, but it is actually mixed with QRS. So it is not a separate one. You cannot see it because it is mixed with QRS. So now there is another term which is called as PR interval. So PR interval means starting of P and starting of Q. This is called Q or R. Actually, there is not much of difference between Q and R. So you measure Q actually, but it will basically you can measure at this point from the starting of the complex. You can say here starting of the complex. So what is PR? It is the time to separate depolarization from atria to ventricles through AV node. That means here the atria were depolarizing, here the ventricles are depolarizing. So the wave has spread from atria to ventricles, but it will take some time to separate. So how much time it has taken place is called as PR interval. And in between the atria and ventricles, there is a one junction which is called as AV node, atrioventricular node. So the impulse pass from atria to ventricles through a node, AV node, like a bus station. You want to go from one place to another place, but in between there is a junction like a bus station. So here the impulses pass from atria to ventricles through AV node. Okay. So if this PR interval is increased, that means if you are taking more time from going from one place to another place, it means if this interval is increased, it means there is some problem in this travel in this pathway, maybe in the AV node. So this PR interval is sometime important to know. So approximately it is zero point 0.2 second. So if increase in PR interval, it means taking more time. It means there is a blockade in the AV node. AV node may be blocked. That is why it is taking more of the time, slowing of the waves. So what is the meaning? What is the one line you can remember? If there is increase in PR interval, what the meaning of this? It means there is some AV node blockade. There is slow conduction. This is one thing that you have to remember. Increase in PR. Is another interval which is called as QT interval, which is very important and we will use many a time. QT interval. What is that interval? Starting from Q, ending at T. Starting from Q, ending at T. There's another one which is called as not interval. This is not an interval. This is segment, line segment, straight line. This is segment, S and T segment from S to T. This is straight line segment. Now I will tell the importance of these two. So what is QT? I'm sorry, what is QT? From beginning of Q over S, ending of T wave. This is QT. Now, if this QT interval is increased, increase in QT interval, that means increase in total action potential duration. The total duration is increased because it is taking more time. It is getting lengthier. That means this wave, this will become much more larger, enlarged. It will lengthwise, it will increase. It is taking more time. Increase in duration, action potential duration, and it can lead to the development of arrhythmias. Ventricular arrhythmia can take place if there is a increase in QT interval. And this is the source to identify. There are many drugs actually change QT interval. Many drugs are there, and they are important to remember also because it is important from examination point of view. What are the drugs which affect QT interval? Okay, and if you want to know more about QT interval, the drugs which can change it, then this is a website which is called as Credible Med website. Credible Med org. So you can click on this one and you can find the drugs which can affect the QT interval. Okay. So one thing more important that I want to tell in these exams, questions also come on the references, the resources, references, which reference you can follow, which book which thing you can follow. Okay. So where you will find this information. So sometimes this is also important. So there can be a question uh, where you can find the information from the counter intervals. Okay, so there are these kind of the things also. So now coming down to this one, ST segment. What is ST segment? This is the flat segment, as I told, flat, flat segment between the S and T state. What is the significance of this ST segment? Now, this ST segment tells about the myocardial ischemia, the chapter that we are doing. So this ischemia, the ECG actually tells about this ischemia, ST segment basically. I will tell this thing, ST segment changes in the coming slides. Okay, how it indicates myocardial ischemia. So now how to diagnose myocardial infarction? Number one sign. If the pain is persistent, number one. Number two, you have given nitrates, but person is not responding. It is a sign of myocardial infarction. Second thing, changes in ECG. Now, this thing you can see, changes in the ECG. This is the normal ECG that I have shown. Okay. But now you can look up this one. This ST segment, which is a normal one, now it is elevated. Changes in ST segment. And changes in ST segment mean signs of ischemia. Now you can see this one. ST segment elevation. Elevation. And then it is called as STEMI. STEMI mean ST segment elevation, myocardial infarction. The myocardial infarction in which ST segment is elevated. It is called as STEMI. Or it can be this one. This one. Now you see the ST segment is depressed. So there can be the depression also. So when there is a depression, we use a word non-STEMI. ST segment is not elevated, so it is a non-STEMI. Another thing, after these ST segment changes are acute changes. So that means when the person is suffering from ischemia, he is under attack, then you will get this ECG changes. But when the ischemia is not there, okay, like he is taking the rest, or he is it go to home and he is okay, no symptoms, no ischemia, then it will again come back to the normal one. It will come back to the normal one if there is no ischemia. But there is another wave which is persistent, which appear after certain period of time. That is appearance of Q wave. There is a Q wave, but this is very small actually. But after ischemia has happened, taken place, after injury has taken place, then this Q wave will appear. Actually, you can say the deepening of Q wave can happen. This is the sign of injury, not ischemia. Injury. Is another thing which can happen. The T wave can invert. This is the T wave. It can invert, opposite. This is again a sign of ischemia. So there are two things, two of the ischemia. Number one, this one, inversion of T wave. Number two, changes in ST segment. Both are related to the ischemia. But we prefer ST segment. It is less specific than ST segment. So preference is for the ST. T is not that much specific. Now, what kind of laboratory test can be done to diagnose MI? Number one, in the laboratory, you can take out the blood and measure the levels of cardiac troponins, which is called as CTN. So what are troponins? You must have, you may be remembering what are troponins. Troponin, tropomycin. Okay, troponin, tropomycins. So they are they are present in the muscles. Okay, so they are also present in the heart also, troponins. And they are the part of contractility unit. Troponin, tropomycin, so they are required for the contraction. So they are the structural part of contractility unit. So if the troponin levels are present in the blood, normally they are present in the heart. But when the injury take place, then these troponins start coming in the blood. This is a confirmatory test of MI, not of angina. This is not of angina. These are basically of the MI. In angina, there is not that much increase. This is the sign of MI. There are two troponins, troponin T, troponin I. Both can be used, but if you compare between these two, then I is more specific. Both are good, T and I, but I is more specific. Of the time period, the levels will increase within 2 to 4 hours of the ischemia. Not that much period, not a long period, but almost 2 hours is not a big period. Within 2 hours, you can see the levels are rising. So good one. So that is one. This is good to check, and remain elevated for 4 to 7 days after MI. So that means one thing more. If you want to check the blood, you want to do the testing after 10 days, then you cannot say the person suffered from myocardial infarction or not, because by that time the levels have decreased. It is not the levels will remain persistent forever. Actually, they are increased, then they are excreted from the blood, from the urine, sorry. So but they remain for a fairly long period, for a long period of time, 4 to 7 days. So early release and persistently elevated. So this will be because you are comparing with other parameters. I will discuss others. So you will come to know why I'm saying it is early, why I'm saying persistent, because it is in comparison with that one. Second one, lactate dehydrogenase.
ਸਰ ਐਕਸਕਿਊਜ਼ ਮੀ,
ਹਾਂਜੀ,
ਸਰ ਇਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਮਤਲਬ ਇਹ ਬਲੱਡ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵਧ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਆ ਟ੍ਰੋਪੋਨਿਨਸ
देखो
ਮਤਲਬ?
इस तरह है कि हार्ट ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੈ ਇਹ ਪ੍ਰੋਟੀਨਸ ਪ੍ਰੈਜ਼ੈਂਟ ਹੈ, ਓਕੇ ਓਕੇ। ਕੋਈ ਵੀ ਚੀਜ਼ ਅਗਰ ਲੈਟਸ ਸੇ देयर इज अ liver injury, ਇਵਨ ਦੈਨ ਲਿਵਰ ਇੰਜਰੀ ਦੇ ਪੈਰਾਮੀਟਰਸ ਬਲੱਡ 'ਚ ਵੱਧ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਆ, ਕਿਡਨੀ ਹੈ ਕਿਡਨੀ ਦੇ ਪੈਰਾਮੀਟਰ ਵੱਧ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਆ, ਲਿਵਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ, ਹਾਰਟ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ, ਮਸਲਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ। ਐਕਚੁਅਲੀ ਕੀ ਹੈ, देयर इज a always a membrane cell which bounds all those kind of things within the boundaries, okay? When there is a death, then that boundary is broken,
ਓਕੇ
okay? So because that boundary is broken, anything which is present inside the heart, now there is no boundary to stop. They will diffuse to all around the places, okay? So this is how they will start coming in the blood. So death,
ਫਿਰ
ਹਾਂਜੀ ਬੇਟਾ।
ਫਿਰ ਸਰ ਮਤਲਬ ਡਾਇਗਨੋਸਟਿਸ ਦੇ ਲਈ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਬੈਸਟ ਹੀ ਹੈ ਬਲੱਡ, ਨਾਲੇ ਇਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਪੇਸ਼ੈਂਟ ਕੰਪਲਾਈਂਸ ਆਉਂਦੀ ਆਈ ਥਿੰਕ ਸੋ, ਮਤਲਬ ਉਹਦੇ ਤੇ ਮਤਲਬ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾਤਰ ਨਾਰਮਲ, ਬਾਕੀ ਬਾਹਰ ਤਾਂ ਪਤਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਰ, ਇੰਡੀਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤਾਂ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਈਸੀਜੀ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ ਫਿਰ
ਈਸੀਜੀ ਬੈਸਟ ਹੈ ਨਾ, ਪਹਿਲੇ ਨੰਬਰ ਤੇ ਈਸੀਜੀ ਹੈ ਨਾ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਇਸ ਨੂੰ ਐਲੀਵੇਟ ਹੋਣ ਨੂੰ 2 ਤੋਂ 4 ਘੰਟੇ ਲੱਗਣਗੇ।
ਓਕੇ ਓਕੇ
ਨਾਲ
ਲੈਵਲਸ
ਇਹ,
ਨੂੰ।
ਹਾਂ, ਇਹ ਨਾਲੇ ਚੈੱਕ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ ਅਗਰ ਪੇਸ਼ੈਂਟ ਪੇਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੈ, ਪਰਸਿਸਟੈਂਟ ਪੇਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੈ ਨਾ।
ਓਕੇ
ਇਹ
ਠੀਕ ਹੈ
ਮਤਲਬ
ਸਰ।
ਦੋਨੋਂ ਚ ਡਿਫਰੈਂਸ ਹੈ। ਇੱਕ ਪੇਸ਼ੈਂਟ ਗਿਆ ਹਸਪੀਟਲ ਚ, ਉਹਨੂੰ ਪੇਨ ਠੀਕ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ, ਹਸਪੀਟਲ ਐਡਮਿਟ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ, ਉਹਦੇ ਫਿਰ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਰੇ ਟੈਸਟ ਕੀਤੇ ਜਾਣਗੇ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਚ ਆਪਾਂ ਟ੍ਰੋਪੋਨਿਨ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ। ਹੁਣ ਇੱਕ ਐਂਬੂਲੇਟਰੀ ਪੇਸ਼ੈਂਟ ਹੈ, ਸਮਝੋ ਮਤਲਬ, ਹੁਣ ਮੈਂ ਕਹਿ ਰਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਮੇਰੀ ਚੈਸਟ ਪੇਨ ਹੁੰਦੀ है कभी कभी, आई एम गोइंग टू योर डॉक्टर, तो आई विल नॉट गो फॉर द ब्लड टेस्टिंग, उसमें इंजरी नहीं ना हुई थी। सो दिस इज अ टेस्ट ऑफ एमआई। वन ऑफ द टेस्ट इज यू गो फॉर द ईसीजी, ਠੀਕ ਹੈ। ਫਿਰ ਈਸੀਜੀ ਨਾਰਮਲ ਆਏਗੀ ਤਾਂ ਉਸਨੂੰ ਟ੍ਰੈਡਮਿਲ ਟੈਸਟ ਕਿਹਾ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ। ਹੁਣ ਕਈ ਵਾਰ ਉਸ ਤੇ ਦੂਜੇ ਟੈਸਟ ਵੀ ਕੀਤੇ ਜਾਂਦੇ, ਐਂਜੀਓਗ੍ਰਾਫੀ ਵੀ ਕਰਾਈ ਜਾਏਗੀ, ਹੈ ਨਾ। ਉਹ ਐਂਜੀਓਗ੍ਰਾਫੀ ਨਾਲ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਅੰਦਰ ਦੀ ਚੀਜ਼ ਨਜ਼ਰ ਆਏਗੀ ਕਿ ਅਥੀਰੋਸਕਲਰੋਸਿਸ ਦਾ ਕੀ ਪੈਟਰਨ ਹੈ। Now this is telling whether the injury has taken place or not. Angiography is to the blood vessels ਦਾ ਕੀ ਸੀਨ ਹੈ, whether they are blocked or they are open, chances ਕੀ ਹੈ ਅਟੈਕ ਹੋਣ ਦੇ। ਬਟ ਇਹ ਦੱਸ ਰਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਅਟੈਕ ਹੈ ਜਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ, ਇਹ ਪੇਨ ਕਿਉਂ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ। ਅੰਡਰਸਟੈਂਡ, ਪੁਆਇੰਟ ਕਲੀਅਰ ਹੈ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ललित?
जी 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 सर।
ठीक है। नाउ इसी तरह का सेम टेस्ट हो रहा है which is called as lactate dehydrogenase, LDH. So there are different isoforms. This has different isoforms, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 LDH. So this is a very common enzyme. Obviously, you can say it is not specific to the heart. It is a general enzyme. So it has different isoforms 1 to 5. If you will just go for LDH, then you will get you can non-specific result. But if you want to get specific result, you have to measure only LDH1, only LDH1, which is specific to the heart. It is the form which is present only in the heart, not anybody else. Okay, LDH1 is a specific test. Now you see when its level increase, late release, it increases after 24 hours. So that means you cannot immediately measure, because when the person is admitted, then it is of no use. But important point is it remains elevated for 7 days. So persistently elevated. So after, let's say not immediate one, but for 2 days, 3 days after, what is the condition of the person or what are the other things, then you can measure LDH. Now about CK. CK is again a common enzyme present in the body, different parts of the body. At different parts, it had different isoforms like CKBB, CKMM, CKMB. So when we say BB, B stands for brain. So this is specific for the brain. CKMM, specific for the skeletal muscle. But CKMB, it is heart specific. So it means, let's say there is a person who says, there I'm suffering from muscle problem, muscle injury, like atorvastatin. Atorvastatin can produce muscle injury, muscle damage. Okay, let's say he is taking atorvastatin, a person, atorvastatin, which is used to reduce, which is used to decrease blood cholesterol level. Okay, let's say he is taking cholesterol and the person says that I am suffering from the muscle problem. He goes to the doctor. So which isoform he will refer for the in this case? Can you tell which isoform he will go?
सर दोबारा पूछना क्या थी
The person is taking atorvastatin, okay, and the person is suffering from muscle problem, skeletal muscle problem.
तो CKMM फिर
Yeah.
CKMM.
Yeah. So you have to understand CKMM is basically, if you want to go for the muscle problems, CKMM is important. But if you want to go for the heart, CKMB is important. So both are important, but at their own places. Both are important. Yeah. So now look at its pattern in the heart. Early release, 2 to 4 hours, but it will remain just for 48 hours. So based on the CK, if you are measuring on third day or fourth day, you cannot say person suffer from MI because the levels are cleared actually. So early release and less persistent. So this is how you can compare these three. So, but this was the ideal one, CKMB. If you see this one, this was ideal, early and persistent. And LDH, it was persistent but delayed. CKMB, opposite, early, non-persistent. So now this is the one types of MI. This type of MI is important for two reasons. Number one, uh, first of all, we should know there are different kind of MI, plus their treatment is different. Okay, so there's a different treatment for STEMI, there's different treatment for non-STEMI. So here I'm not discussing the treatment portion. Treatment I will discuss later on, but you should understand these are two different types and how you can differentiate. One difference, as I have already told to you, That means first I just go for the names. STEMI is the ST segment elevation myocardial infarction. It is also called as Q wave because later on in these kind of patient Q wave appears, and Q wave was the marker of injury, heart injury. So it means it is a more severe form of the myocardial infarction. So which is more severe? STEMI, more urgent requirement in the STEMI. Relatively non-dangerous form is the non-STEMI, non-ST segment elevation. This is called a non-STEMI. And Q wave is not generally present, so less severe. So difference is, so as the name indicated in the definition, ST segment is elevated. ST segment is not elevated. So second in the definition, Q wave is generally present. Here Q wave is not present. Now it is more severe, I am telling. How? Now infarct means dead tissue. It extends through the whole thickness of the heart. Whole thickness mean, let's say I'm just giving an example. Let's say you are having your wall in your home. Okay, एक कमरे दी दीवार है अपने को. Okay, there is some problem on one side on the wall. Okay, but that problem starts from one side, but it crosses the whole wall. It reaches to the second room. Understand what I'm saying? It is starting from one room, one side of the wall, but it is crossing the whole length of the wall, thickness of the wall, and it is reaching to the second room. So that this is the how the whole thickness is covered. This is STEMI. Non-STEMI, it is problem of the wall of the room, but it is present at that only portion, not going to the, it is not crossing the whole wall, just one localized one. And if it is question comes, what that portion is, where it start most of the time, the ischemic injury starts in the inner region of the heart. This is the inner region. Inner mean endocardial region, innermost region, not from outside. The injury does not start from outside. Outside is the epicardial. Epi mean outside, covering, cardial. Endo mean inside, the inner portion of the heart is most susceptible. Always it start from inner side, then it start moving outside the length. Now it is more severe. Why? Because there's a complete occlusion of the major artery, 100% blockade. So it is a minor one. Either there is a minor artery which is occluded, complete, minor. Here the major is occluded 100%. It can be the minor which is 100% blocked. Or if it is major, then it is not 100%, it is partial. Major is partial, major is 100%. So obviously it is more severe, it is less severe. It needs different treatment, it needs different treatment. Now, this term is used nowadays for the third kind of angina, ACS, unstable angina. Not, yeah, actually, this is the syndrome in which many things they have been combined actually. Okay, like STEMI, non-STEMI, and unstable angina, which was actually excluded from this category. It was earlier myocardial infarction and angina, but now this term is used, acute coronary syndrome. In this, unstable angina also comes. Now, important point is the treatment of these two is almost similar. Non-STEMI and unstable angina is treated in one way, and STEMI is different in a different manner. So you can classify into two ways. Its treatment is one portion, its treatment is another one. Now, what are the complications of MI? If MI happens, what can happen? So obviously, you cannot say what kind of complication will take place because you don't know what is the extent of the heart damage. It depends upon the extent of heart damage. Like one of the most feared complication is the sudden cardiac death. Sudden cardiac death. And the reason, ventricular fibrillation. It is a kind of a arrhythmias, kind of a ventricular arrhythmia, the most feared arrhythmia, sudden cardiac death. Oh, like this one, this can happen. So now I told you ECG in previous one. Now you see this is the ECG. Now you cannot read anything. It is just a waves, but no meaning of these things. So if this kind of the ECG is appearing, it is very dangerous. There is no contraction actually in a coordination. There is no coordination. More dangerous form. Then second thing, heart failure, because heart is damaged. Okay, let's say 30% of heart has been damaged. You are just left with 70% of the heart. Now 70% of the heart has to do the whole work. So how it can do whole work? So it cannot pump all the blood. Earlier it was 100% heart who was working. Now it is 70% heart is working. So it is not able to pump the adequate blood. It will pump only 70% of the blood. So this is called as heart failure. We will study heart failure separately, which is called as congestive heart failure. Now arrhythmias can happen. Not that serious, but different kind of arrhythmias can happen, like ventricular tachycardia, atrial fibrillation, blockade, different kind of rhythm. Now this is another one. Aneurysm of left ventricle means like this one. This is aneurysm. Now this is heart. You can see there is a bulging of the one portion of the heart, bulging. Particularly this bulging will take place when the heart contracts actually. So outward bulging and deformation, particularly during the systole. Systole the time to ज़्यादा bulging होगी because it is contracting and relaxing. So bulging, aneurysm. So aneurysm, localized area. So one area of the heart with abnormal outward bulging and deformation during systole and diastole. So this is called an aneurysm of the left ventricles. So there is a ventricular septal rupture. What is this thing? Now this is you can see. This is the ventricular septal rupture. Septal means separation. There was separation between these two, but the injury has taken place at this wall, and now there is a mixing of the heart. Mixing of the heart can take place. So this is a rupture. So infarction of the interventricular septum followed by rupture. Mitral regurgitation. What is mitral regurgitation now? This is the left atria, this is left ventricle. In between, there is a valve which is called as mitral valve. Okay. So now what is the function of this valve? Unidirectional flow of the blood. जो एक दरवाजा है, दरवाजा सिर्फ एक साइड से खोलता है. Okay, so this is how the valve is opening in just in one direction. That means in this direction, downward direction. The blood is going in downward direction. But now this valve is damaged. This valve is damaged. So now when the ventricles will contract, the blood will go into the aorta. But now this valve is not closed actually. The blood will also move into the aorta. So this is what I am saying in the normal heart. This is left ventricle. This is left atria. And this is mitral valve. Now this mitral valve is damaged. This mitral valve is damaged. So now the backflow of the blood from No, so it is wrong. Backflow of blood from ventricles to atria. Kindly correct it, not atria to ventricles. This is a normal thing. From ventricles to the atria, blood will backflow. So now this is mitral regurgitation will take place due to dysfunction of papillary muscles. Actually, why papillary muscles? Walls are actually held by the papillary muscles, mitral walls. They are controlled by papillary muscles. So if the papillary muscles are actually the ischemia happens to the muscles portions. So that is why muscles will be damaged actually.